Hey YouTube, it's Maddie. This week I wanted to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, and I didn't want to write a script or even take notes because I just wanted to openly talk about this. So I guess here we go. I'm late on my video this week because last Wednesday I got a call from one of my very good friends telling me that my English teacher died. This person wasn't just my teacher. Mrs. Smith was one of those people that, she was one of those people that you could talk to about anything. She was so loving and understanding and open-minded. She held you accountable for your mistakes, but she never judged you for them. She knew everything about me. She knew every mental illness I have. She knew every dream I had. She knew every flaw. She knew every mistake I have ever made in my life, and she loved me. She was one of those teachers that you dream about having, that actually taught you something outside of the lesson, that put your needs before her own. I remember last year they cut a bunch of teachers at my school, and they cut her hours, and she was gonna leave because she couldn't afford to work part-time. I remember eating lunch with her, and I say it's because I didn't want her to feel alone or lonely in her last week, but I really think the reason I went every day was because I was looking for my chance to say goodbye. And I thought that was goodbye. And that was hard enough. And that I remember telling her that my sister Melissa would love to be her attorney if she wanted to sue the school for ageism, because she could totally do that. And she looked at me and she told me she couldn't do it, because in reality you may think that that would hurt the school, but it would actually hurt the students. And the fact that that was her first response is just such a beautiful thing. That's who she was, who she is. There are so many things that I can say about that woman. She helped me with my depression, with my anger issues, with my stress, with school, with relationships, with friendships, and even when I just needed somebody to say hi to. But I wanted to take a little bit of time out of this video. There's a page on Facebook dedicated to her memories, and memories that people had of her, to read some of those out loud and just remember Mrs. Smith and more than just the memories I have. So I always enjoyed going to Miss Smith's classes. She was so understanding, and she always had a smile on her face. She genuinely cared about all of her students. Her classes were never boring, and I learned a lot from them. She was a wonderful teacher, and she will be truly missed. I am grateful I was given the opportunity to attend her classes. Her green pen obsession. Miss Smith always had this issue where students, if they wrote in green pen, she would throw a fit in, because that was the color she used to grade papers, and it was so funny, and it was the only thing she ever really got upset about, and she didn't even get that upset, but it was just a rule. You knew never to use a green pen. Mrs. Smith was easily one of my favorite teachers at Ladywood. As a higher education professional, I model the way I interact with and care for my students after the way Mrs. Smith interacted with and cared for all of us. She handled the craziness of the Lit fam with grace and challenged us in a unique way. My experience at Ladywood would have been completely different without her. She will be dearly missed. I like this one. She was quick to call us out on our bullshit, but she never made us feel like horrible people for our mistakes. Instead, she was encouraging and never judgmental. Not only did she listen to me, she genuinely believed in me and that I could do better than I was doing. Every paper I wrote for her was sprinkled with both constructive and witty criticism and encouraging notes. Despite our group being more offbeat than most, she was tolerant and appreciated our quirks rather than judged us for them. She was one of the 2 teachers there that told me that I should value being different. Enough said. She deserves so much more. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. We'll never forget you. I had a lot of cool conversations with her about life and just general trivia while chaperoning many student council dances back in the day. My favorite memory of Mrs. Smith was when we had to read children's books to the class and I completely messed up and swore, followed by more swearing in reaction to swearing, and she just sat back laughing, turning red as I read a children's story. I loved her laugh so much. I will never forget the day that a few of us wanted to try to get out of a test or something silly like that, and we decided to play a prank on Mrs. Smith in efforts of distracting her. We put Burt's Bees chapstick under my eyes to make me cry and came up with some elaborate story about how my boyfriend had broken up with me. Instead of brushing me off and going on with the test, Mrs. Smith put her class plans aside to take the time to give all of us girls some pretty solid relationship advice. The only man who is worth your tears is one who won't make you cry. This just speaks to how much of a caring person she was. Not to mention incredibly patient she was to put up with stunts like these. Mrs. Smith was an amazing teacher and will be greatly missed. I have way too many great memories in Mrs. Smith's classroom, but one of my many favorites was the time she let me read an erotic novel to the classroom. I've never seen her laugh so hard, but I don't blame her. We were all so immature and innocent. Making her laugh was one of my favorite things to do, and it was easy for me to get her cracking up because I would say such random things. Her laugh was contagious. I'll never forget it. I want to finish this off with the post I made because it sums up everything I'm feeling. Not everything, but mostly what I feel. So, here we go. Mrs. Smith was a second mother to me. She was actually more understanding than my own mother in most ways. It's hard knowing that she's not here to talk anymore. I told her everything. She was one of those people that you could just be completely open with, and she would hold you accountable for your mistakes, but she would never make you feel bad for them. She always knew when I just needed someone to listen, and when I needed advice. Her door was always open. Even when she was teaching class, she would be so happy to see you and even stop a lesson to chat for a bit or just say hello. Every single time I was walking past her classroom or taking a detour on my way back to class, I'd stop by, pop my head and smile and say hey. She'd just laugh and smile, this bright smile that would make you feel all warm and at home. Last year when they cut her hours, I ate lunch with her every day to keep her from feeling lonely, but also to give myself some closure as we all thought she was leaving. I remember her crying and telling me how she was going to miss all of us, then how she was scared she wouldn't find employment elsewhere to help her pay the bills. But I also remember her laughing as we packed away her classroom and wiping her company laptop of every lesson plan, which was her own way of sticking it to the man. I asked her why she wasn't going to sue for ageism, and she simply responded, "It wouldn't hurt the administration, it would hurt you girls, and I can't do that to you." At the memorial, the speaker mentioned that Mrs. Smith isn't gone, she's always in our hearts. What I took away from this is, even though she's not physically here, I can still go to her with my problems. She's always with me every day. She shaped me into who I am today, and I'm so grateful for that. Every lesson I've learned from her, I will carry with me forever. I want to be just like her someday. Every day, I feel differently, and every day I realize even though I'm not ready to let go, and even though I still need her, I can look to the girls around me and the people that she touched. And she's still there in every one of you, in all of us. She shaped every single one of us into the women that we are today, and I'm so proud of all of you. This last week has been extremely hard on all of us, and it will continue to be extremely hard without such an amazing person in our lives. But then she'd want us to mourn, feel what we need to feel. And then she'd want us to smile and laugh and remember her and know that she's much happier now. I love all of you so much. And I love you, Mrs. Smith.